The 2024-25 Women's Super League is on the horizon. In preparation, we're previewing every single team and discussing how they'll shape up over the next campaign. We take a look at the transfer business conducted by the teams so far and offer suggestions of who else they should move for before the season gets underway. Today, we discuss Leicester City. There's reason for optimism amongst Fox's fans as exciting young manager Amandine Miquel has been hired and she's bringing some exciting French talent with her. We discuss how they can push up the WSL table with their business this summer and why holding on to Jutta Rantala is more important than any signing they could have made this window. This is our 2024-25 season preview for Leicester City. Alright, let's talk about Leicester City then. I think this is the preview I'm really excited for. Obviously, I'm excited for all the previews, but we've done a lot of these teams, we've looked for a lot of them. I think I'm really excited about this Leicester side. They've got a new manager, they've got some new players, so let's talk about it then. So, the last two seasons, a bit of mediocrity. Last campaign, 10th in the league. The season before that, 10th in the league. So, any higher than 10th this season, that's a huge improvement.
And I think that's the difference. Obviously, mediocrity is one word for it, but for me, it's stabilising. What we've seen, so many other sides, Brighton, Everton, you name them, They started one place, they've dropped. Last season they dropped 2 or 3 places. Leicester, yes, 10th is obviously a lot lower than the teams like Villa and Brighton finished, but the fact they've finished there again, it is quite low. But we know from just using our knowledge that they've never really been a threat of relegation, and they've stabilised themselves in 10th. And what that does is that gives them a really good kind of minimum to push off. They know that their minimum is now 10, and they know that they can push on now under new management, and that's the thing, to stay in the league after all the controversy that happened last season off the pitch. They did well to stay up. They got to an FA Cup semi-final. You've got to give them...
Yeah.
I really do think that, as you say, they can push on from last year, and this season could be a big season for the Foxes.
Yeah, as you mentioned there, we can't forget their FA Cup success. Getting to semi-final was a great run. Naturally, to take Tottenham to extra time, that was really strong. And obviously, you spoke about there the off-field controversy. We're not going to go into that stage, but that did form a large part of why Leicester perhaps didn't achieve as highly as they could have. So I think there is a lot of optimism for the Foxes, and with new manager Amandine Miquel, I believe is how you pronounce her name, coming in as well. I think that's very exciting. 40 years old is Miquel, coming in from Stade de Reims in France. Off the back of a really strong season. They finished 4th in the Division 1 Feminine last season. That was above teams like Montpellier, who are quite a decent side. I think it was a really strong campaign. Other than when you take out the 3 teams above them were PSG, Lyon, and Paris FC.
Yeah. 3
teams who consistently get Champions League football. So to be the best of the rest in that league with a very limited budget compared to those 3 sides, I think that's a really, really strong season. And it's clear why Leicester believes she's the manager to take them forward.
Yeah, it's a very, very strong appointment. Her literal proven quality is that she can take teams who don't have the finances, who don't have the facilities of other teams, but she can take them and use the on-field performances to go challenge better sides. And she's done that in France. If she can come over and do that in the WSL, then there is proof there that Leicester will rise up the league this season, because they don't have the biggest budget in the league. They don't have the best facilities or the best players, but through smart recruitment and very strong on-the-pitch performances, Leicester can jump some of the teams that perhaps have more money. Because at the end of the day, money doesn't always equal points. And that's the main thing, is that Amandine Miquel is so good at getting his points on the board.
Yeah, definitely so. And let's talk transfer business then. Now, I think I would caveat this by saying actually the most important bit of business Leicester have done this season is not losing Jutta Rantala.
Yeah.
I think that's better than any incoming they could possibly have, because what an incredible season she had last year. And we're looking at the teams around them, like Brighton, who've lost Elizabeth Turland, which is their entire attacker gone, and they've now got to rebuild that, and they've lost Katie Robinson. So, and like Everton, they've lost Piemonte. But Leicester City, the crucial thing they've done this summer is hold on to Jutta Rantala, and I think that will make a huge difference. Let's look at who has left, though. Aileen Whelan has retired, so I don't think that's a huge loss, though. Same for Amy Palmer joining Southampton, not huge losses. And Remy Seamson. We've then got who's gone to Christian Stad's DFF. Then, which sounds more like a sofa company than a football side, but there we go. And then we've got Josie Green going to Crystal Palace, and we spoke about her in the Palace video. A good signing for Palace, but someone I think was surplus to requirements at Leicester.
Yeah, she clearly, she can still cut it in the WSL, can Josie Green, but realistically, I think her joining Palace is the right decision. And for Leicester, if they're going to do what we're saying they're going to do, they are going to push up the league. She's the type of player that probably won't make that push up with them. It makes sense why she's left.
Yeah, definitely so. Then we've got Demi Lambourne going to Sunderland. She was in the Women's Championship last season with Crystal Palace on loan. Palace decided they didn't want her, but she has now departed to join Sunderland. I think that'll be a really good club for her. They are currently leading the Women's Championship after one match week, I believe. They are the favourites to go and win the title. So, yeah, I think that's going to be really interesting to see how they get on. They're definitely up there. I think, London City Lioness is another team, but I think, Demi Lambourne and Sunderland should be up there. She's a very decent goalkeeper, as we saw last season at that level. Then we've got Monique Johnson going to Sheffield United and Ava Baker going to Birmingham City. Neither of those are huge losses for Leicester.
Yeah, it feels like with the outgoings that Leicester have kind of just the very floor of the squad, the bottom of the squad, where perhaps they've got the players that aren't quite of the quality.
Those fringe players.
They've kind of just got rid of a few of them and instead have replaced them with players who are probably of much higher quality.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a really, really strong window. So let's have a look at what they've done then. Up first, Asmita Ale coming in from Tottenham. She was there on loan last season, had a really strong campaign, and they have now made that move permanent. I think it's a really good signing, a solid left-back who knows the club, who knows the other players. I think this makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. As you say, experience playing for Leicester, experience playing in the WSL. It makes sense. Decent loan spell, might as well make it permanent.
Yeah, indeed. And then with them cutting a few centre-halves, they needed to sign some more, and they've gone and got Chantal Swaby from FC Fleury 91, and they've signed Sarah Keys from OH Leuven. So Swaby will tend to play on the left-hand side of the defence, Keys on the right-hand side of the defence. I think both of them will be backup options. I think that it would be very difficult to see them getting in over... Well, I think maybe Swaby over Tebow on the left-hand side, but Howard should keep a spot on the right-hand side. But either way, that's going to give them 4 solid centre-back options.
Yeah.
So I think in that regard, they're very much sorted there. Then a huge signing from Manchester City, Ruby Mace. I think it's a really exciting one. I'm not sure whether she'll be able to start first season. Maybe it'll be a more rotation option, but she is a really good player, and I think Leicester will be keen to bring her into the side, nurture her, and try and get the best out of her.
Yeah, very much so. I think she is is an exciting young player, and I think definitely as she goes on, she's just going to get better and better. I think it's an interesting one that City have let her go, but I don't think that should say too much, because realistically, even if she isn't deemed to be the quality that City want from their kind of their players, doesn't mean that it's not going to fit into this Leicester side very well. And I do think this is a very, very good addition. And if she can really maximise how good we know she could be, then it's a very, very good pickup for Leicester.
Yeah, definitely. Then we've got 2 signings from Stade de Reims then. 2 players who Miguel's worked with closely that she'll definitely be keen to ensure are very strong. First up, Noemi Mouchon coming in. She plays up front, and her FBref profile is absolutely phenomenal. 89th percentile for non-paying goals and 89th percentile for shots on target. So that compares her to the other top strikers in the women's game. So from the top 9 competitions, she ranks in the top 89%. You've then got 0.67 non-pen goals per 90. That's really strong. So she's not relying on penalty goals, and had a really strong overperformance of expected goals last season, which is exactly what you want to see from a striker. You want to see a striker scoring more goals than they perhaps should. Then you've got shot creating actions, 3.37 per 90. That's 84 shot creating actions. Then progressive carries as well. Really good at driving that ball forwards, carrying it forward. So looks a really strong striker. I think she's tipped to be very good this season. Harry, how well do you think she's going to do?
Yeah, I'm expecting a really strong campaign. I think she had a good season last season, and I'm expecting her. I really like these transfers when a manager joins a new club and then brings over players from that old club that she knows does well. It is going to be that step up from the Division and Feminine to the WSL. If she can manage that step up, she's familiar with the coach, familiar with the way that she's going to want to play. if the Leicester side can click around her, I can definitely see her putting up some really strong numbers this season.
Yeah, definitely so. And then Shana Chosanote as well, 19 years old. So I believe Mouchon's 20 years old, Chosanote 19. So a lot of young players that Miquel has worked with. And that seems to be the theme of the recruitment, especially Ruby Mace as well. I think she's 20. So a lot of young players there. But Chosanote plays in forward areas. I think she tends to play off the right-hand side, but she can also play up front. I'm not sure how much involvement she'll have first team this season. I think she did play, obviously, for Stade de Reims last season, so maybe she'll be thrown straight into the action. But she is very young, so I'll be intrigued to see how many minutes she gets. There's a lot of competition for Leicester, as we're going to see on the right-hand side here. So let's have a look then at the Leicester squad. 4-1-4-1 was how they played last season. Now, I'm not sure how Miquel is going to play, so I've just put it in a 4-1-4-1 so we can see who's, how many players they've got, where they might roughly can play. Obviously, there's a few players on here that can play various different positions, like Jutta Rantala. I've put her in attacking midfield, but she can just as easily play on the right wing. So this may not be the formation we see. It may look very different, but this is how I've put it down. So in goal, they've got Leipzig and Lisa Kopp. They've got two really good goalkeepers there. Now, I know Lisa Kopp has been linked with Manchester United, but that rumour's gone a little bit cold in recent weeks. But if they were to lose Kopp, it's not a bad thing. They've still got Leipzig. I think they need to go and get a third choice, because then that gives them a bit of security. And if they lose Kopp, they only have Leipzig. So they do need to do that. But I think they have got a few youth goalkeepers who could step up into those roles. So they're very comfortable there. Then across that back line, at left back, they've got Ale and Courtney Nevin. That's absolutely fine. Two really options there. They'll be all right. Left centre half, Swaby and Thibaut. Right centre half, Howard and Keys. We spoke about Swaby and Keys coming in. Thibaut, Howard, both strong seasons last year. I see no issue with them continuing to play in this Leicester side. At right back, it will be Bott and Cayman. Now, we've seen Cayman play attacking midfield, in middle midfield, on the wing, at right back. So she's a very versatile player, and that's exactly what you want to see in a squad like this, having a player who can play so many different positions when you can't perhaps have two players in every position. And then obviously we expect CJ Bott will start up front. So start at right back. Will be the starting right back. Up front. She's not just going to go up front. But she's a really nice option. I don't see any issues with that backline. I think it's really solid. One of the stronger backlines of the bottom half. Then in defence midfield, Takarada is still at the club, so I think she'll continue to play that role, but Pelgander is comfortable in defence midfield as well. Pelgander can play a little higher, so if it is a 4-3-3 type shape with a more traditional midfield setup, then that could be what we see. If it's a 4-2-3-1, then again, we could see Pelgander and Takarada in the midfield there. And we could also see Sam Tierney a little bit deeper. I've put her in as one of the two attacking midfielders, with Mace and Rantala being able to play those positions. There's a lot of depth there. There's a lot of really strong depth. I don't know how you would construct a midfield of Takarada, Tierney, Mace, Rantala. You could have them all playing. Maybe Rantala off the wing. I guess we'll see. They are stacked in wide areas though. On the left wing they've got Goodwin, O'Brien and Kane. On the right wing they've got Rose and Mamiki. I think we'll see Rose start. I think we'll see Goodwin start. But again, not exactly sure what formation they're going to play yet. And we could see Rantala off the right hand side. So they've got a lot of options there. I put Mamiki there because Mamiki can play up front. She can also play left wing. She can also play right wing. So again, could play a variety of positions. I think O'Brien is quite comfortable on the right hand side as well. So they've got a lot of rotation there, which is handy. It means they're very safe in the if they do have some sort of injury crisis. They have got a lot of players who are very versatile. And also Chosanote as well can play on the wing or up front. And then the strikers, you've got Petterman, Lena Petterman, who's been a really solid option for a few seasons now. You've got Naomi Mouchon, who is obviously a really exciting transfer. And I think Petterman will play the first few games, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Mouchon thrown straight into the action or comes in after that if Petterman isn't firing. And then the youngster Draper, 19 years old, one for the future, but we may see her get some minutes this season. So I think there's a lot to be really positive about for this Leicester side. I think holding on to Rantala, as I said at the start of the video, was crucial. I think she's a top player. We saw it last summer. There's a reason she's been linked with teams like Tottenham, like Manchester United, like Liverpool. She's a player who could take those teams to that next level. I rate her really highly. And I think bringing players in like Mouchon, like Chosanote, like Ruby Mace, I think having those players around her who are really good, really high technical players, that's really going to help. And a manager in Amandine Miquel who does have a distinctive good brand of football. I think it's going to be really interesting to see whether they can challenge the powers that be. I don't think the top three is in their sights, but if one of Manchester United, Tottenham, Liverpool, Villa have a slip off, I think Leicester are in a position to try and climb into the top half this season.
Yeah, and I think those games will be the more interesting ones when Leicester do go to those kind of sides that are in that lower end of the top half. But you can see the foundations here of why this Leicester side did get to the final four in the FA Cup. I mean, the attack is ridiculously strong. You look at Rantala, you look at Captain Tierney. Mace is a brilliant addition. Up front, Petterman and Mouchon should do enough to share their goals. Goodwin's looked really strong in pre-season when playing out in Australia. And Leicester overall looked decent in pre-season. Lost to Man City on pens and then won the third place playoff against somebody.
Carry out at that with the fact it is pre-season. The games don't tell us everything.
For a side that finished 10th and didn't put too many points on the board last season, a good pre-season is very strong, especially under a new manager. To have a good pre-season is important. But this is the big difference I see with the reason I can see Leicester pushing up the table and the other teams not is that you look at other teams like Everton and co. You question where the goals come from. I look at this Leicester side; they've got so many players that can put the ball in the back of the net on
how
a
they don't
consistent basis.
score.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be very surprised. I think defensively as well. It's strong, it's experienced. You had a new contract for Howard over the summer. And they've brought in stronger rotation options to help out there. It's a really well balanced Leicester side.
Yeah, definitely so. Let's have a look then at how they'll start their season. We like to look at the first 5 fixtures to try and form an opinion on how they're going to start the campaign, because obviously with a season, if you start fast, that can make a world of difference. Yeah. I do think they've been kind of screwed with those first 2 fixtures. Liverpool and Arsenal, Liverpool away, Arsenal at home. Very tough fixtures. Yeah. If it wasn't for them, Nomi Mouchon and the rotation risk, no Mouchon would be in my fancy WSL team. I think she may be by game week 3 because Crystal Palace at home is a really nice fixture. If they can get a point out of Liverpool or Arsenal, fantastic stuff. Yeah. And then we'll see how they get on in the next few games. But Crystal Palace on Sunday the 6th, going to be a huge one. They've got to win that one, and that's at home. Aston Villa on the 13th. Villa looks strong this season, but you never know. They've got Robert De Paul. There's a lot of unknowns there. His Leverkusen side were a bit meh. Whereas Mikel's side were huge overachievers. So maybe Leicester will be able to win that game. And then Everton as well at home, rounding off the first 5. I think that's a winnable game. Then they go into the international break with the potential, there were potential 6, 7, maybe 9 points there. Really good way to start the season.
I think it's quite nice because I think you've got Palace, Villa and Everton which are all winnable games. And then you've got Liverpool and Arsenal, where the Liverpool game will be very interesting because that will show Leicester's level. I'm not saying they're going to go and win that game 2-0, but if they go to Liverpool and they compete, I think that will say a lot about how Leicester's season's going to go. And if they get a point or they take all 3, that's brilliant. Arsenal as well, you never know what's happening with Arsenal. They didn't look brilliant against Rosenborg in their UWCL qualifier. They've dropped point. Last season they dropped points to teams like West Ham, to teams like Everton. They drop points to teams they shouldn't drop points to. There's always a chance you can get something, especially if you go out there, you're playing, you're under a new manager. It goes one of 2 ways. Either you really struggle to get going under a new manager, or you start brilliantly. And for Leicester, I think they've got, Liverpool and Arsenal's very difficult, but as an overall first 5, it's quite a nice first 5 fixtures.
Yeah, to be fair though, playing Liverpool first when Liverpool won't have any idea how Leicester are going to set up yet could be a really nice game because you can shock them in there. And then Arsenal will be coming into that match off the back of Champions League, Manchester City Champions League in the last 9 days. Then they've got 2 days before their home game, on a away trip to Leicester, They've got to then travel up to Leicester after a game in the Champions League against Herken. It's a good time to play them. If they've been knocked out and morale's low, then you've got that. So. Or if they've won, the travel back, the celebrations, and if they've lost to City or won against City, it can have a huge impact. But if they've lost to City and lost both games to Herken, Leicester are in a fantastic position.
I think Leicester will be hoping at the very least is that Arsenal don't win the first leg against Herken convincingly, because then that means that they've got to play a strong 11 on the second leg, and that strong 11's got to rock up at Leicester in 3 days and play a team that is going to be up for it.
Or a rotated 11, because that strong 11 has to play Man City, has to play first leg, has to play second leg. So
honestly,
in that case, it's a good run. So maybe Leicester could win all 4 first 5 games. They're on 15 points, and suddenly we're saying, we're going, well, they're going to win it. They've won it. Well done, Leicester.
I mean, realistically, Leicester fans, I'd be very excited. I think it's going to be a good season for Leicester. I really hope they deliver. I feel like the last couple of years, finishing 10th back-to-back, they've gone under the radar because they're not, barely picking up any points and losing 8-0 like Bristol City were, but they're not, they're not up. They weren't quite in the conversation with your Villa and your Brighton and co. So for Leicester, I think it's a big season to kind of put themselves on the map finally. For people to act when they look at the table, not just skim over Leicester, but to actually go, wow, Leicester are doing really well. Yeah. And I think that will happen. I think we will get to after the first few games, we could be sat here after the first 5. Leicester could be in the top half. They could be 7th, 8th, and it's been a decent start.
Yeah, I mean, it just still seems to be that they're very switched on at Leicester. Whoever's making the transfer decisions, whoever's making the staff hiring, I mean, going and getting an exciting young coach out of France who overachieved with a side with a small budget, that's really smart. Yeah. Going and signing players like Mouchon, I know that's obviously a signing from Mikel and Chosanote, both Mikel signings, so we can't really count them at the same. But players like Ruby Mace, that is the Leicester board going out and finding those deals. So really smart recruitment this summer, and actually holding on to Rantala, that's really good stuff because there was interest in her. I believe that she's on a new contract now as well. And if you can convince Rantala, because Rantala isn't going Chelsea, Arsenal, City.
No.
I like her a lot. I think she's a really talented player, but ultimately she doesn't get in any of those teams. So the fear that Leicester have is that United, Tottenham, Liverpool, Villa, those type of teams come knocking. But if Leicester can mix it with them this season, if they can get into the top half of the table, then the leverage that these other sides have is gone. Because if Man United come over and go, oh yeah, we want you, Jutta, and the only thing for Rantala is the league position, and Leicester are close to Man United, then maybe there won't be the incentive to leave. Now, obviously, if Man United walk in and slap loads of money on the table, Rantala's head might be turned. But in that case, you can command a huge fee now that she's down on a longer term contract. So I think things are looking really positive for Leicester. I think they've had a really good window, and I think they're in a position now where they can really look to kick on. I think they'll take huge pride in how they did last season under the circumstances, how they finished in the FA Cup. Ultimately, I think they'd be a little disappointed in the end not to get to the final, but they did really well in that competition last year. I think things are looking really up for Leicester, and 24-25 promises to be a really exciting season.
Yeah, very much so.
Should be good. If you are excited for the 24-25 season, because we are very close now to the start of the campaign, then do make sure to go and watch all our other previews as we build up for it. Yesterday, obviously, we released our Everton preview. That'll be on screen now if you want to go and give that a click, and we'll be moving on to clubs like Liverpool tomorrow, City, United, all of those after that. So, of course, we've already posted the first half. We've still got a couple more to go, but we are now closing in the WSL season. It is next Friday that everything gets underway.
Ridiculous.
I can't believe we're back already, but that is everything from us today. Thank you guys very, very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.